Well, hello everyone, welcome. It's me, Phil, here in the Digital DJ Tips Studio. I just figured out I don't need my headphones on anymore. That piece of work's done, and we're now live talking about, well, what you want to talk about, because it's Thursday Q&A Live, and that means I'm here to help you with your DJing problems, issues, challenges, whatever you're stuck with, gear, music, techniques, playing out, promoting yourself. Well, that's what I'm here for now, just to chat DJing with you. Hashtag ask. Hashtag ASK if you want to ask a question so that I get to see your question. Now, this is the time when I traditionally hold up a copy of our book and say, hey, but I've been reading some really good books recently, so I thought I'd shake things up and hold up the books I've been reading to tell you about them. So here are the two books that I read in the last week that I think if you're a music fan, it might be worth you taking a little look at. The first one is Richard Russell's Liberation Through Hearing, which is a book about the history of the XL record label, which started off as a rave label, but then has signed the back catalogue of Radiohead and Adele and loads of other artists. Richard has actually made tracks with Jill Scott-Heron and all these kinds of artists that are very, very different from each other, but have all got this kind of independent ethic. So I really like this book. I really enjoyed reading this. If you want to hear about a singular record label and how it's kind of got to where it is, and you're interested in XL Records, that's a good one. But this one here I really, really loved. If you were a dance music fan in the 1990s, especially if you're in the UK, but this would be a good read for anyone. It's by a writer called Harold Heath, who wrote this book called Long Relationships, which is the name of his best-selling record, the best-selling record he made. It's called My Incredible Journey from Unknown DJ to Small-Time DJ. It is, as you would imagine, a tongue-in-cheek, fun, but also passionate read about his career as a DJ who kind of nearly made it and had a lot of fun along the way. So Harold Heath's Long Relationships is a great book. It's got, if you remember the film Trainspotting, with that big diatribe about modern life, he's got a kind of diatribe about DJing in here, which is as powerful. So I really enjoyed that one as well. So there you go, a couple of books that were not written by me, that I wasn't involved in, that I've enjoyed recently. So there's some reading for you right at the beginning. So let's now, The Prodigy, of course, XL, The Prodigy. How could I forget The Prodigy? There we go. There's something for you to start off with, a couple of interesting books for you to read. But remember, this is about you. So whatever you want to talk about today, whether you want to talk about your DJ gear, music, techniques, getting gigs, live streaming, promoting yourself, you just let me know and we will cover it here. And the best place to do it is on Facebook. We're live on Facebook, YouTube and Twitch, but Facebook is the best place because your questions remain there afterwards. So there's loads going on in DJing at the moment. We've been reviewing some interesting new equipment. This new audio interface by Roland was quite interesting, good live streaming device. We've got the news about the CDJ 3000s being supported by Serato, but older Rain gear not being supported by Serato. Facebook being a bit nicer to live streamers. So you want to talk about any of this stuff, then do so. But otherwise, I'm all here for whatever you want to talk about. Okay, let's do it. Let's start and let's get the very first hellos and questions coming in. So hello, as always, to our regulars, OSF42, and to Martin and to Stephen over there in the States, to DJ Kennedy en la mezcla. Kennedy's in the mix. Hello to you. To BCF Madara. Good morning. You must be over there stateside then. Hello to Mixmaster G. By the way, sorry that we are not live in our normal time. We're half an hour late today, unavoidable today, I'm afraid. Apparently the ADE Festival, Mixmaster G says, has been scaled down this year. I've just heard that the NAM Festival, or the NAM music conference, is now in June instead of in January as well. So lots of COVID-related changes going on there. Hi to Nick, who's in Barbados, DJ Black Eagle, Chris, and all of our regulars, Salvation Drum and Bass down there as well. And to Brian, Lord Bearcat, House Collect, good morning, good evening. What are the odds that watching that 5 scratch mistakes video that Steve made? Well, there you go. All right, our first question. Martin, have you heard anything about a company called Crate Hackers, and do you know anything about them? I do know about Crate Hackers. They are a company that is really, I'd say, most useful for mobile DJs. They kind of help you build playlists, and they hook into download pools and that kind of thing. Now, I haven't had a chance to have a proper look at their service. It doesn't appeal to me, I have to be honest, because the way I build my playlist is very, very singular. But I do see that for DJs who need ready-made playlists and need to know what to play next and all that kind of stuff, they could be useful. But as I say, I haven't had time to have a proper look at their service. But it might be worth having a look at, especially if you're a mobile DJ, I'd say. It is on my list of things to have a look at when I get a second. So the next question in our live questions, remember hashtag ASK if you want to ask a live question, is from Cherry3, who says, can you direct me to any info on OBS Studio versus Streamlabs OBS? I've been on Twitch Studio and it crapped out on me, so I'm looking to try one of these. Well, look, just try OBS. Now, OBS Studio is the open source broadcast software for basically Windows and Mac. They are dabbling with mobile software as well, but you're going to be wanting to use it on a Windows or Mac computer, I'm sure. It is a simple way of going live, basically. Now, OBS Studio, the version of it made by Streamlabs is just a rebadge. And so if you can learn to use one, you can learn to use the other. My advice would be to learn to use OBS Studio first, because it's the stripped down version, and then you can move on and see if Streamlabs has any of the bits and pieces that you need, that you might want to use as well. But they're both the same software underneath the packaging. So really, it doesn't matter which one you try first. I would always try the straight OBS because it's the most simple version of it. This next question is from Larry, who says, do you think rekordbox DJ will be the next software to adopt on-the-fly stems separation like Virtual DJ and DJ Pro AI? I don't actually. I don't think they will, because it's pretty cutting-edge technology right now, and they tend to be quite conservative in the way they incorporate features, and their features tend to be aimed towards pro DJs, and I don't see pro DJs using that kind of tech yet in the DJ booth because it's just a bit too cutting edge. I don't think they'll be the next DJ software to adopt that for that reason, to be honest with you, Larry. This is from DJ Black Eagle, who says, on Virtual DJ, when I click on hot cue on any controller, when I press Q, it cues back to the last hot cue I pressed. Is there a way I can get the Prime 4 to do that? Because that right, so when you click on a hot cue on any controller, it cues back to the last hot cue you pressed. I'm not really sure what you mean there. The hot cues are buttons which are set to hot cues that you choose. So when you press a hot cue, it's going to go to the hot cue you choose. There are two behaviors on cues. You can have them to drop back to the hot cue and then play the track, or drop back and wait. And in most DJ software, including the Prime Go, you can set whether it does one or the other. You can do that in the settings. But if that's not what you mean, Black Eagle, then I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you mean. So elaborate, and I'll try my hardest to help you there. Craig says, hi Phil, I'm looking back at the Newmark Mix USB from your NAMM 16 video. Talking of NAMM, what backup DJ option do you now recommend that has dual CD player, USB and Bluetooth all in one? I can't think of any DJ system now that has CDs, full stop. So you're probably best off going and buying something like that, something that already exists. I don't see DJs using CDs at all where I am anymore. But if you want something with CDs on, you're going to be buying something that is not new, because I don't believe they're still made. I think a few manufacturers are still making CD-based players, but we certainly don't see them anymore, Craig. Christian, I usually encounter corruptions and lags when I'm using rekordbox. Do you have any tips on how to avoid it? Well, it shouldn't happen. So the tips are going to be optimize your DJ system. You could have a corrupt database. That could be something you can look at. But rekordbox is certainly no worse than any other DJ software for corruptions and lags and so on. If you just mean glitches and audio dropouts and the software not running smoothly, it almost certainly is going to be that you've got your buffer size set incorrectly. And the buffer size is the control that decides how quickly things happen between you doing them and them coming out of the speakers. Obviously, you want things to happen as quickly as possible between you doing them and them coming out of the speakers. But the thing is, it's not always possible, because your system might be slow, it might have lots of stuff on it that is slowing it down, or it just might not be the fastest laptop that you're using, for whatever reason. So buffer size is the way to fix that. You've got to find your buffer size. So I can show you how to do that now. Go into rekordbox, hit your preferences panel in rekordbox, go to audio, and then go down to here where it says buffer size, and then you can move this to somewhere a little bit higher. You might find that you have to move it up to 20 milliseconds or even higher than that. None of these settings are going to be really bad for your DJing. The lower down here you can get it, the best it's going to be, but it takes more processor power. So the first thing I do is head in there and just bang that up a bit and see if that fixes it. And if it does, then keep moving it down slowly until you start getting problems again, and then move it up a bit more to the first notch where you don't get problems. It's the best way of describing how to fix that. And that's the same with all DJ software. If you're getting audio dropouts, if you're getting the screen's not scrolling properly, if the screen's freezing, or you're just getting other glitches, it's almost certainly to do with the buffer size. And again, the way you can set your software up so the buffer size can be lower is by optimizing your laptop and making sure you've got lots of space on your hard drive, turning off all the processes you don't need, only having your DJ software running, and basically making sure that it's as lean and minimal as possible. Right, okay, if you want to ask a question, it's me, Phil Morse, here in the Digital DJ Tips studio, bringing you our Thursday Q&A live. Now, I do have to tell you, or rather I want to tell you, that we have just relaunched our Digital DJ Lab program, which is our best DJ mix training program, our flagship membership program. So if you go to the Digital DJ Tips website and click on the big banner there, it'll take you through and tell you all about Digital DJ Lab, or even easier, you can just go to that URL there, try lab, djtips.co/try-lab. It's $1. It's $1 for a month of our flagship training, and it's well worth trying it if you want to see what we do for DJs who want to stay on the cutting edge. It's quite something. It's got literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of lessons, training videos, mixed deconstructions, coaching seminars, and so on in it, which you can't get in any of our other courses. So do go and take a look. djtips.co/try-lab. Our next live question is from Dirty Jokes fan, who says, with the semiconductor chip shortage biting, are we going into a mini hibernation for new gear? It's interesting, isn't it, that the companies which have got the supply chain stitched up, like your Apples and so on of this world, they're probably going to be the last ones to be affected by this. But of course, the smaller companies, more niche companies, I think, this is my personal view, we're entering a time now where we are not going to be able to have everything we want when we want it, whether it's DJ gear, whether it's food in the supermarket. And I actually personally think that is a good thing, because we're living in a world where resources are finite and we cannot carry on acting how we're acting. Digital DJ Tips, while we get all our traffic every time we put a new piece of DJ gear review on our website, that's where the traffic comes from. Every time we show you a picture like this one here, it's absolutely no coincidence that when we go live we have pictures of DJ gear looking cool. There's the overhead shot of it. Look, we know that people love DJ gear, we review gear, but gear isn't what makes the DJ. It's the skills that make the DJ, not the gear. There's 5 areas of DJing: gear, music, techniques, playing out, promoting yourself. Only one of them involves equipment. Once you've got your gear, you should be learning to DJ, not learning about new gear to replace your gear with. So we do try and slowly steer DJs away from being too gear centric. I know gear's fun, but look, in the old days we had 2 turntables and a mixer, and that was it. Nothing changed. We didn't even think about DJ gear, not a bit. Didn't think about it. We thought about the music and the party and what we were doing to promote the party and what we were doing to put on a good performance. It's only in the hobby years, as I like to call them, where DJing has become something that anyone can do with a couple of $100, that gear has been pushed so far forward. So in truth, Dirty Jokes fan, yes, I think there is going to be a bit of a mini gear hibernation, but I see it more as a reset button, and I'm all for it, frankly. I don't want to see anyone going without food, and I don't want to see the world struggling for essentials, but the latest version of a DJ controller that came out a year ago and in a slightly different version is not essential. And I also think that Apple shouldn't be releasing new phones every 6 months or a year or whatever as well. But unfortunately, it's the big boys like that who've got it stitched up, and it will be the smaller companies, like the DJ companies, that suffer first with this stuff. So yeah, I think we are going to go into a bit of a mini hibernation. What I think is DJ gear will become more expensive, and people will therefore not buy it as often. But I think that's a good thing personally. Let us know what you think in the comments. But thanks for that question. It was a good one. This one is from Reza, who says, I have a Denon DJ Prime Go and I rely on sorting my songs by BPM. However, DJ software gets the BPMs wrong sometimes. For example, a song that's 75 will show as 150. What should I do? Well, there's two things you can do when it comes to analysing your DJ songs to get that right. The first thing is you can find the plus minus. So all DJ software, and as I happen to have rekordbox open here, let's go back to rekordbox and I'll show you on this. So all DJ software has got a way of altering the BPM that's already been chosen. So on rekordbox, let's go to our performance mode because it's, in fact, no, sorry, let's go to, I was on export mode in the first place. On rekordbox, when you go into the editing mode for editing your grid here, you can change the BPM here to double or half the time. So that's the BPM on this track, which is right. But if I thought it was wrong, I could click this half here, or I could click the double if I thought it was wrong in the other direction. In other words, if it was half the speed or double the speed. The reason that they give these buttons, and all software has them, is that the mistake that you talk about is the most common error. I mean, some styles of music, you can argue that they are both 75 and 150 BPM, for instance, like dubstep. You know, is it based on that big, slow kick drum, or is it based on the fast percussion and hi-hats? Both are correct. But other times it just gets it wrong. Like, for instance, you could have 120 BPM house track that's been put at 60 BPM. You know, if that happens, then it's easy. Just go find that half double button. But also, when you're actually analysing the tracks in the first place, you can set the analysis range, if you like. So you can set it to analyze from, I don't know, from 80 to 150, which means that it will never go 75 by mistake or 70 BPMs by mistake, because you're telling it all the BPMs are between 80 and 150 that you use. So there's another way of making sure that it gets it right every time. If say you're a drum and bass DJ and all your tracks are very fast, you can tell it that all your tracks are fast by giving it a range before it analyzes your music. Otherwise, just go change it. Happens to me a lot where I'll have like down tempo tracks that are at double the speed. And one thing I recommend is every now and then in your library, get all your tracks, get your whole library and click the BPM column and go and look at the top or bottom. Again, seeing we're in rekordbox, I'll show you in here. So I would go here and I'd click the BPM column here, and I'd go right to the very, very top of the BPMs. Now that's actually not the whole collection, that's the whole collection. I'll click the BPM column and I'll go right to the top, to the fastest tunes I've got. Now here, I've got Late at Night by Elder Island, which is a chill out track, and it reckons it's 170 BPM. Now I know that's wrong, so now I can correct that one by halving that BPM on that track, loading that track and halving it. And now that track is corrected. And that track is at the right BPM now, and so that's not going to cause them any problems anymore. And I've got another one here, Chambao, Chill Out, 170 BPM. I know that's not 170. So again, I can do the same thing. I can put its grid to where it should be, and that'll be corrected. So it is possible to quickly go and check if you've got any errors. And I could go to the other end, if I've got drum and bass tracks at 80 BPM and stuff. It's worth checking that every now and then for ones that have slipped through. Great discussion. Always like talking about preparing your music. Preparing your music is being a winner. You've won before you even turn up at your gig if you are very diligent about keeping your music prepared. So thank you for that question, Reza. This one is from Tiffany. Excuse me. Tiffany says, hi Phil, when you record your mix on Sundays, I DJ every other Sunday. I'm live this Sunday actually at 5 PM London, midday Eastern, on all our channels except Facebook. So come join me for some chilled out house music. Anyway, Tiffany says, when you record your mixes on Sundays, what do you use to split out the live mic when recording so it's only the mix you upload to Mixcloud? Okay, so to cut a long story short, I do it in a different way to that, Tiffany, but this is the way you can do what you described. What you basically want is to have the microphone going out on the live stream, but have a recording of your DJ set which is not covered in you talking, right? The easiest way of doing it, if you use a laptop, the easiest way of doing that is recording your DJ set in your DJ software. So just hitting the record button in your DJ software, but plugging your microphone into either your DJ controller, if your DJ controller doesn't record the microphone, and most don't, or if it does, plug your microphone directly into your laptop and then into your broadcast software. And your broadcast software then brings in the audio from your DJ software and the microphone, mixes them together and sends it to your audience, but the recording that you're making on your DJ software is just the music without the microphone. And then you can use that recording from your DJ software to upload to Mixcloud or wherever you want a version of it that hasn't got the microphone on. That's the best way of describing it. I actually do it in a slightly different way that's more complicated and that's probably not as relevant to you. So the key is to hit record in your DJ software to record the music, which almost certainly won't record the microphone. And then either plug the microphone into your DJ controller, because it probably won't record the microphone, and then just feed everything into your broadcast software from there. Or if for some reason your DJ system does record the microphone when you hit record in the DJ system, you might be using something like a Prime system that, Prime 2 or Prime 4 that will record that. Then in that case, use a microphone that plugs directly into your laptop, and you can get USB mics, or you can get adapters to plug in normal mics, if you like, into the laptop headphones stroke microphone input. So that's how to do that, and I've done it that way too. Okay, our next live question, and we are taking questions. #ask if you'd like to ask a question, is from Gianpaolo, who says, is it mandatory to cue point all my songs, or should I get to know them off by heart? I've got like 3K tunes, but I know some famous DJs mix them all without a single cue point. What's your point of view? My point of view is you should know your tracks. But that said, there's nothing wrong with putting cue points on first beat, beginning of the music, beginning of the breakdown, on the drop, and on an outro where the vocal comes in, whatever it is that works for you. There's nothing wrong with doing that as well, because just because you know your tunes, it doesn't mean that it's not useful to have cue points. If you mix a tune in and it's not going very well, you can get to the end of the intro and hit the outro button, and then it'll jump to the outro and you can mix it out again, and it just looks like you used the tune as a joiner between two other tunes. It's good to have cue points, but using them as a substitute for knowing your tunes is risky in my view. A good example is Laid Back Luke, who's been DJing for 2 or 3 decades now. Luke has got probably 2,500 tunes. That's not many tunes for DJing for, let's just, for argument's sake, 25 years, is it? It's like 100 tunes a year. And that's what you should be looking at in your collection. Then you can really get to know each tune properly. And he's still got cue points on all his tunes, and he's got a very careful cue point system that he explains in his course, in his DJ course. So it's not an either or here. You can do both, and indeed I would probably argue you should do both. But if I had a choice over which to do, I would always learn the tunes before putting cue points on them, because that is what's going to get you out of jail. That's what's going to allow you to always know what tune to play next. Cue points won't ever tell you what to play next, right? You got to know this stuff. By the way, if you're interested, head over to our DJ courses tab and scroll down and to our mixing courses, and you'll find Layback Luke's creative DJing course there. It's an awesome course if you like the way Luke DJs, you want to know how to play big room and festivals and so on. Luke is a DJ's DJ. He's very technical, and he teaches you pretty much everything he does in this course. So it's a bit of a cool no-brainer if you want to play that kind of set. Go and have a look at Layback Luke's course. Okay, so back to your live questions. This is from Numa, who says, do you think there's a big difference between the DDJ 400 and the DDJ 800? These are 2 Pioneer DJ controllers. Yes, there is, Numa. The DDJ 400 is an entry-level consumer DJ controller. It's a great DJ controller to buy as a beginner DJ, and you can still use it as a pro DJ. If you go and look at James Hype's YouTube, he posted a video in the last week of him on a DDJ 400 smashing it. James Hype is, of course, one of our tutors, one of our course tutors. So yes, you can DJ fine on a DDJ 400, but it's an entry-level controller. A DDJ 800 is a pro controller. It's a 2-channel pro DJ controller. It's got pro inputs, pro outputs, pro components, pro audio quality. You can DJ with it in bars, clubs, everywhere. It's designed for DJing by professional DJs, whereas the DDJ 400, although you can use it in those circumstances, is not designed for it. The build quality is not there. The inputs and outputs aren't as professional. There aren't as many options on them. So they're very different, and that's why they're priced differently. But it's not the gear, it's the DJ, which we were talking about earlier, funnily enough, weren't we? And so you can still do some amazing stuff on the DDJ 400. There's certainly nothing wrong with buying a DDJ 400. Indeed, what we advise DJs who are new to this game to do is buy a cheap controller, like a DDJ 400 from Pioneer, like a mixed track FX Platinum or FX Pro from Newmark, that kind of thing, as your first controller. And then when you are ready, and if you ever move to this point and you need a pro controller, buy one, but keep the original one you bought, because there is your backup controller right there. All pros should have a backup. Well, there's your backup. So you, in a way, you're not wasting the money by buying an entry-level controller at the beginning. Thank you for your question there, Numa. So here's a good one from Paul. What's your thoughts on doing a voiceover on a weekly online radio show, or would you just let the mix do the talking? That is a great question. You know, I have a bi-weekly radio show on my Mixcloud, which is the one I'm showing you on the screen now, Phil Morse's Balcony Beats, and I am only posting the music here. This is literally only the upload of the music that I played on that particular live stream. But when I spoke to Mixcloud themselves about this, we did an article recently on the best practices for using Mixcloud, they told me that you really should have an introduction, a voiceover, and maybe a couple of idents throughout to say what people are listening to, and then at least say goodbye at the end. And apparently the DJ that they say it does a very good job of this, I mean lots of DJs do a good job of this, is John Digweed. John Digweed has got a long running Mixcloud show, and so if you've got time, I do think if you've got a radio show, and Mixcloud is the place for online radio, it is worth having that. People are more likely to follow you and listen to you if there's that human element there. I don't do it. It's something I've always wanted to do, but you can't do everything. Probably at some point that will be an improvement I make to my show. So yes, I think it is a good idea to do that. How can I take all my crates to make one crate on a Numark Mixtrack Platinum FX, says Sean. Well, it's not the Numark Mix, you mean Mixtrack, don't you? It's not the Numark Mixtrack Platinum FX you're doing it on, it's the software, which is Serato. How do you get all your crates into one crate in Serato? And you know what? I've got absolutely no idea other than highlighting the tracks and dragging them into another crate. I don't think there's another way you can do that, to be honest with you, Sean. So yeah, that's how I would go for it. So Peter, to cut a long story short, says, do I hear you can now live stream on Facebook? Easy, Peter. What Facebook has done is get a deal with the major record labels, so Facebook's gamers on Facebook's gaming platform can now play any music they want in the background and not get a copyright strike. But it's not been rolled out to Facebook and Instagram yet. I think it will be. I mean, you'd think so, wouldn't you, if they've managed to get it on the main platform, but not as yet. So Damien, what do you think, Phil? Is it worth spending money to promote my fan page on Facebook to get more likes? I'm 32 and this is my hobby, but I want to be something more than a home DJ. And no, I don't, Damien. Your fans need to be genuine fans, and they need to be hard won. So win your followers one fan at a time. Do it by interacting with everyone who comes to your page. Do it by getting into conversations with them, direct messaging, giving them extra value, adding more good content to your Facebook page. Find out what people want and do it, but don't spend money on it. It's they want you to spend money on it, but it's going to be wasted money. It's much better. The person who spends the social media spend, and we do have a social media spend here at Digital DJ Tips. The person in our team who does that is Steve Canuetto, who's also our Scratch tutor. There's only 7 of us here. We all have multiple jobs. But Steve's got a very good saying, which is, you can't start a fire with advertising spend. You can only fan the flames. So advertising spend is great when you've got momentum, when you've got fans joining every week, when you've found a formula, which means that your profile is building. Then it's a very good thing to do, spending money, because it's a catalyst. But until you've got that formula, until you've got that momentum going, until you've got that fan base building, don't think you can start it by spending money, because you can't. Okay, so we are live. We've got about another 10 minutes left here, and we are talking about all your DJing questions. So do ask them with the hashtag ASK if you want me to see your comment. Cedric, I'm looking for a good tutorial on mapping an echo out in Virtual DJ 2020. Can you help with that? I can't think of a tutorial, but the VDJpedia, which is VDJ and then pedia, as in Wikipedia, is the place to go. There's a really good mapping tutorial for Virtual DJ in the Virtual DJ VDJpedia. In fact, I will find it for you. I won't find you the exact mapping part of it, but I will find you the VDJpedia. Here it is. So go to virtualdj.com/wiki and you'll find this. And this is an absolutely brilliant place to learn how to map your controller. It's got everything in it that you need. I've spent a lot of time in here as a virtual DJ user over the years, and I can guarantee you'll find what you need. That'll tell you how to do it over there. This next live question is from Almighty Ra, who says, "Hi Phil, I want to add the third and fourth deck to my 4-deck controller. What would you recommend?" Okay, DJing with 4 decks is not like DJing with 2 decks. You don't get 4 tracks going at once and somehow treat all the decks equally. What I would recommend is that you start using deck 3 for maybe an acapella or a DJ ident. You can have your DJ drops on deck 3 ready to drop in. That's what James Hype does with his James Hype bitch drop that he uses all the time. And deck 4, you could maybe have either an emergency track. So in other words, if it all goes wrong, you've got a track on deck 4 that's huge that you can just quickly mix in and everyone will love you for it. Or a loop, like a percussion loop or a drum loop. So one thing a lot of DJs like to do is always have that acapella there. So it means they can have an acapella running or bits of an acapella that they drop in all the time, like an ident or so on, while not having to forfeit one of their main 2 decks in order to do that. And then on the 4th deck, a drum loop, meaning like it could be percussion, it could be a nice bongo loop, a nice 8-bar bongo loop taken out of a track you like. Filter out the kick drum, filter out the hi-hats, just leave the mid-range bongos playing away there, and then you can just drop and leave it beat synced with everything else. You can just drop it in and out of the mix whenever you feel like it, in order to give your whole DJ set some cohesion, because suddenly it's like, I love this DJ, I love what they're playing. No matter what kind of music, there's always this nice bongo player there. It's almost like you've got a live player with you, but it's you dropping it in on deck 4. And with today's sync technology, of course, you can keep both those things, the acapella and the drum percussion loop in sync. I used to have a friend who ran a club night called Freedom, and he used to have the Aretha Franklin Freedom acapella, and he used to drop it in 2 or 3 times in the night over the top of the set. And, we loved the night, so whenever we heard the night, that acapella, it was like chance for everyone to look around and say, yeah, we're in the right place, and cheer and enjoy it. Idents are a very powerful thing. But he had two vinyl decks. He used to have to literally pull the vinyl up and drop it in that way. Nowadays, you can use an extra deck for it. So that's what I would do. Certainly at the beginning. You watch Carl Cox or you watch techno DJs. They're doing a bit more than that. They're using 4 decks with loops and stuff. But to start with, an acapella and a loop of some percussion would be my advice to you to get going. You have a lot of fun doing that and getting used to switching between the deck layers. Okay, the next live comment is from DJ John Roback, who says, I love the way the technology has developed and I look forward to upgrading to the Prime 2 for my MCX 8000. The MCX 8000 is the last generation Denon DJ player, and that will no doubt come to the end of its kind of useful life soon enough, because that's what always happens. So you're doing the right thing in upgrading there, and I do hope you enjoy the Prime 2. It's a great player. I love the Prime 2. DJ on that a lot myself at home. So in rekordbox DJ, a lot of people asking about rekordbox. Maybe it's because I'm showing it today. You can highlight tracks and right click them to export as a playlist. Is there a way to do the same in Serato? No, there is a way of exporting playlists in Serato, and I can't remember off the top of my head how to do it. There is a way of doing it, but I'm not sure exactly how, but there is a way, so have a look. Moose says, any idea how to route Ableton through a channel on a DJ 707M? No solution through Ableton preferences. A DJ 707M is a Serato DJ controller that will plug into a laptop, and there could be a way of doing it using something like, if you're using a Mac, something like Loopback, to take the output from Ableton and route it back into one of the inputs on the audio card of the 707M, which ought to be visible, will be visible in the audio settings on your Mac. I haven't tried it, but I'm going to say you can do it. I'm going to say you can do that. Otherwise, it's old school. Otherwise, you're literally playing Ableton through the Mac or through the PC's stereo headphones output and literally routing that physically into a channel, which is, there are worse ways of doing it, but I think you can probably do that using an audio aggregator or an audio routing app. We use an app called Loopback on the Mac, which is very, very good. It's like you can see what you're routing. I might actually have it on my settings here. I might be able to show you. No, it's needing an update. I've not opened it for a while. But yeah, that could be a way of doing it. Trial and error, really, but I think that's probably going to be possible. Right, we are live. It's Phil here in Digital DJ Tips Land, bringing you answers to all your DJing questions. I'm going to do like another 5 or 10 minutes worth today. Remember to join me an hour from now. Look at your watches on Sunday for a chilled out house session. I'll be broadcasting live from somewhere in the sunshine. Really looking forward to that. As ever, I've no idea what I'm going to be playing yet. I'll be getting the music ready between now and then. And also join me next week on Tuesday and Thursday, the same time as now, an hour before now actually on your watch, for more of this live stuff. It's always a pleasure to bring this to you. So the next one is from DJ Pac-Man, another music organization question. My music is organized by genre folders, then subfolders titled by BPM ranges. I'm thinking about removing the subfolders for DJ software to read faster and put the BPM in the file name. What do you think, Phil? I don't think you need to have the BPM in the file name, and I don't think you need to organize by BPMs in folders either, because your DJ software will accurately analyze the BPM and it will allow you to organize by BPM, sort by BPM. You can have smart playlists in your DJ software that automatically give you BPM playlists. So I really wouldn't bother with any of that. Frankly, I would never bother with any folders for any of my DJ music. It all goes in one folder. It's called DJ Music, and that's it. I have a folder called DJ Music. It all goes in there, and I organize it all in the DJ software. If you're going to put it in folders, I would just say do it in year folders. Just like have a folder for 2021, chuck it all in there. At the end of the year, get a new one for 2022, chuck it all in there. I don't even care what my file names are on my tracks anymore. I've always been should I, shouldn't I with file names. It's quite nice to have clean file names, artist, title, sometimes even key back in the day, because sometimes you'd have DJ systems that wouldn't read the metadata properly, and that it was just a kind of, it saved you really. But now, I honestly think nowadays the metadata is just, it's the way we sort it out. The ID3 tags, the artist, the title, the BPM, the genre, the year. Those tags are all in the MP3 anyway. They're attached to it. So I just think chuck all your music in one folder, or if you're going to start using folders, just use year folders, if you ask me. Of course, the truth is, as long as your system is simple enough for you to stick to it and clever enough for you to find the tune you want to play next every time quickly, the truth is, it doesn't matter what you do. But the mistake I see DJs making is having a system that sounds clever at the time, but is too complicated so they don't stick to it. And when a complicated system breaks down, it's worse than no system, which is why we teach keep it simple. Next question is from Jermaine, who says, what is the stand that you have your XP2 on your shelf behind you? The stand that I have the XP2 on my shelf behind me. I will show you. The XP2 is standing on this. It's the Reloop stand hub. This is a really clever, and there's the XP2, and it's stood up like that. So it kind of just like shows it off. The reason this is a clever stand is that, well, to start with, you can have it in positions like this. Like if you've got an iPad on there, for instance, or a tablet PC, that's a great position to have it in. And it goes into all kinds of other positions as well. You can adjust it into the classic kind of Z shape, which is a very stable way of having a DJ stand. Or equally, you can flip it over the top and have it in that kind of more slightly less stable. You can have it over around like this and have that bottom one level. I can't really do it now with two hands. I'm trying to get it on camera. But the slightly less stable way, but you can then tuck it under gear and have your laptop on the top there. But the clever thing about this is it's got USB. See, it's got those USB sockets. So you can plug a power cable, a Mac power cable into here, and then you can have it powering your Mac and also giving you powered USB sockets for all your USB accessories as well. So that makes it quite a clever little stand. The stand hub from Reloop. So if you're after a stand that also doubles up as a a powered hub, that's your one, the Reloop stand hub. It does what it says on the tin. Do different DJ softwares analyze differently? I analysed the song in rekordbox at 130, but Serato analysed it at 94. Yeah, they do slightly. It's different depending on what software you use, because they'll use different algorithms, but generally they'll get stuff more or less the same. The thing that they'll tend to get wrong when you compare them to each other is the key, musical key. Because musical key is art as well as science. But that said, if you stick to one software for musical key, so let's say you're a Serato user and you're always analysing Serato, then if it gets it wrong, it'll get it wrong consistently. So when you're mixing between the different musical keys in Serato, even though it's got it wrong, it's going to sound all right. It's when you analyse musical key with lots of different software for all your tracks that you might find it gets it a little bit more wrong, if you like. Right, my final question is today. Sorry I can't answer them all, people, but I have a meeting that I'm already 8 minutes late for, so I will have to run now. My final question, loads of you asking about your music libraries, but look, as long as you ask your questions in Facebook, we will get to them after the event. But this one is on YouTube, and it's from Graham, who says, I use rekordbox, and if I set cue points on MP3 tracks in one file and then copy that file to a new folder, the cue points disappear. How can I fix this? If you're copying the file to a new folder outside of rekordbox, they will disappear. Because it's associating them with the original file. Move your tracks around within rekordbox. If that's the issue, then that's what will solve it. My final question from David. I've recorded a mix nice and quiet, but some of the transitions have caused high peaks. Should I correct that in Audacity before sending it to an online mastering services? Yes. If you can load it in a wave editor and edit out the obvious errors, maybe just highlight that area and reduce the volume and tidy it up a bit, still leaving lots of headroom for the mastering service, you'll get a better service from them. So yes, you can load it up and give it a few tweaks. Don't do too much, because that's what you're paying the mastering service to do. But yeah, that would make sense, especially if they're kind of areas, David. Right, sorry people, I have to go now. Thank you very, very much for being with us today, and for using hashtag ask for your questions. It has made it a lot easier for me to get as many of them as possible answered as I can. Take care one and all. I'll be back on Tuesday and Thursday for more of this stuff, but join me on Sunday, an hour from now or 50 minutes from now, for a live stream on YouTube, Twitch and Mixcloud Live. Until next time, all the best. Get good, get out there and make the moments. Till next time, people. Bye-bye.